If you are a football fan, and we're talking international football, you are ready to dial in, get the pad and the pen out. My man, Nigel Seeley, owner of Premier Sports Plays, all the way from London town, joining us to talk Champions League. Nigel, great.
Great to hear you, Alex. Good to be on the show. Looking forward to this. Champions League is back. Game number 4, some really games tomorrow night, really big games on Wednesday night. This is where the cream really hits the top. Let's see who's got the minerals to be the top team in European football.
I love it. All right, let's start just generally speaking. There's a couple of big favorites on the slate, Bayern, Man City. When you're betting on a heavy favorite, break us into a little bit of your strategy on how you go about it. And, talk a little bit about the spread in soccer, too, or football, I should say, because it is obviously different than betting on any other sport here in the States.
I think in recent years, the cream has got to the top of the divisions, and the best teams always win. You look at the English Premier League, there's like an elite 3 teams. And that's what's happened in European football. And you get these very low odds, or minus $10, minus $8, which American bettors aren't really excited about. Why would you want to bet a team at minus $10 to win a football match? It could be 0-0, 0-0. Everyone thinks soccer's boring. 0-0, 0-0, boring. We want goals. We want action. But I think the best way to play is on the handicaps, the Asian handicaps. You can bet teams minus 2 goals, minus 1.5 goals, minus 1 goals, which makes it much more interesting with the underdog receiving a 1-goal start, like you do in the American football when the teams go to the Jets were giving up points every team they play until yesterday. But, that's what we're doing over here. So now we sort of make it a little bit more interesting. Just looking at the traditional money line, why would you want to bet Bayern Munich tomorrow at minus $5? You've got to parlay them up. It's not interesting. But now the American sports books and Bet Rivers and all the other American sports books out there, they are having 365 different bets on a soccer match. Now, 5 years ago, you couldn't bet even a soccer match. Now you can bet 365 different markets on it. It's getting exciting. There's lots of things, and I'm here to educate you and tell you where you're going to make the money. Not on the money line, but on the props and on the specials to make us some cash.
I love that, Nigel. And speaking of heavy favorites now, are you a fan of the double result in terms of the team to win the first half and win the game? Let's say like Bayern, you're laying a lot of juice. But for them to win the first half, do you look at those often, and do you recommend those for teams that should take care of business and get it done by 45 minutes in?
Well, I was a bookmaker in England for many years, and if anyone played the double result, the favourite and the favourite, it was a bet that I always wanted to take the money on. So I would advise you not to play that bet. There's certain things that over here in Europe, and now we're not like America, New York, where you guys are, is a little bit different. But if you go to the Vegas and you go over to the west coast of America, it's Sunshine State, games that happen. Over here in England, we can have torrential rain one day, we can have sunshine the next day, we can have snow the day after. The same thing. So the first half in some football matches are very cagey, very iffy, very close encounters. I always like to bet the draw at half-time and the favourite to show their quality in the second half. I think that's a much better strategy, because I think the underdog goes to these big teams and wants to make it very difficult for the first 45 minutes. Then after the second 45 minutes in the second half, the class comes through. You can't do it over a period of 90 minutes. Fitness levels, substitutions shows their class. So as a rule my rule would not to be betting the first team to win the first half and the second half. I much prefer to take the draw in the first half and the favourite the second half at around about $4. My kind of bet.
I love that. I appreciate the insight there. Okay, so we're talking about Champions League, different than league play, but when you're watching over the weekend, let's say Liverpool, who draws, they were up 2 goals early. Man City, red card. They lose to Palace. They otherwise probably wouldn't. How do you factor in the weekend league games? Do you completely men in black it? Do you go clean slate, pretend like it didn't happen? Or do you actually factor that in when you're handicapping these Champions League matches?
Well, I factor more in the week after. So when a team comes back from European football, now over in America, you guys travel 7 hours or 6 hours on a domestic flight. I think it's easy. Us over here in Europe, we do 5 hours. We need 2 days rest. We're tired. We want to go to bed. We're not used to that kind of stuff. So I look for the teams that have travelled from some part of European football, then come back, and then they have a difficult game. But the roster's so important. Look at the game they play on the weekend. For example, if Manchester City are playing at Liverpool and then they have to travel away in the midweek, it's very, very different. If they're at home against a Crystal Palace or a Burnley or a team towards the end of the Premier League, it's very, very different indeed. But I think now the top three teams in English football, Chelsea, Manchester City and Liverpool, have such a big squad, Alex, that it doesn't really matter. You know, unless they're playing each other, they could put their reserve squad out and they could be able to beat the team on the Premier League on the weekend. So I don't look. 5 years ago, maybe I looked at that kind of thing, but now the top is getting bigger, the squad strength is getting bigger, and they can rotate their players to make no influence on what happens on the Wednesday to the Saturday.
I love it. Okay, let's talk about tomorrow's matches. I know you had a play for me in the Man U Atalanta game. I wanted to talk real quick on Ronaldo. Obviously, the most decorated Champions League scorer. I think he has 135 goals in his illustrious career. Do you like to fire on someone like Ronaldo to anytime goal scorer when it is a rise to the occasion match? And then on that note, you got to play for me in this match. Who do you like?
The trouble with Ronaldo, you're going to take a low price, aren't you? You're going to take low odds, and betting is all about value. I would never bet Ronaldo to score any time in any game, given his stats, because the line you're going to get is so low. It's a public play. It's not for me. I look for someone else. I look for someone else to. That game tomorrow, though, I really fancy goals. I think you're going to get goals. Atalanta score goals. Manchester United score goals. Both defences are about as much use as a chocolate fire guard. They're useless. And I think there's goals in this game. Both teams scored definitely over 3.5 goals, without a question of doubt. But if you're looking for a prop, Ronaldo is a low price. He's going to take penalties. He's going to get free kicks. Look for someone else. Look for a defender. Harry Maguire from a corner, from a free kick, get a header in at about $6 rather than Ronaldo. Not for me.
All right, I love it. One more real quick. I think you said you had Chelsea. I know we got 30 seconds here. You got something for me real quick?
I'm going to go really quick. My best player of the weekend is Chelsea to win to nil. So Chelsea to win and not to concede. It's about minus 135 at Bet Rivers. Chelsea always win, never concede. 10 games this season. They've won 10. 9 of them they haven't conceded. Chelsea to win to nil.